G'day guys, Duckville here with you today. We're going to have a look at a replay from some fantastic players over on the EU server. Starting up at the top left hand side here in the blue is going to be our feature player, of course. It is LiquidHaypro. He's going to be here fighting for Team Liquid, fighting for Sweden, all that sort of stuff. He's a fantastic player. A lot of people sort of are not really that well versed with some of his achievements. Of course, there are some, obviously back in the Brood War days, he was actually a really decent Brood War player. I believe he won a couple of some really big tournaments. I think DreamHacks when they were back in the Brood War days. I don't actually know exactly, but something along those lines. And of course, he was one of the top Zerg players on the European server during beta for StarCraft 2. He has, of course, he's done a decent job outside Korea, of course, doing some really nice placings in some tournaments. He's also, not many people know this, but or sort of remember this, but he's one of the few players to beat Nestea in a Zerg versus Zerg in a tournament, in sort of a tournament format. So that's, you know, that's certainly something to cheer about. So, I mean, yeah, so that's why we're going to have a look at him today. Of course, this is from the Team Liquid replay, This Week in Replay pack number 17, featured on Team Liquid Pro. And you can jump on board and have a look at those replays on there yourself if you need to. There are some fantastic games in this replay pack. I'm probably going to cast, I think, 2 of these, maybe a third one if I can find some time. It is the weekend, and I don't think there's actually too much on this weekend, but we'll find out soon, won't we? His opponent, meanwhile, before we get too far into the game, is ESCGoOdy. Goody, known as definitely one of the big meching Terrans in the scene. He was, of course, known as effectively Mr. Meching Terran. He's recently known, thanks to MC, I'm sure Goody was very happy to hear this, he became known as a supply block Terran. So we're going to keep an eye on if that sort of problem comes up for Goody. But he's starting out here with a command center first into a Rax. It looks as if we're going to get a triple Rax wall down at the natural expansion here, just covering the ramp. Very nice way to open up, and a very nice economical way to start the game. Goody, of course, as we said, a big meching player, loves to crank out the tanks, get the Thors, the Hellions, all that sort of jazz out, and if he can get those things rolling, he gets into a really nice position a lot of the time. He's one of the few players who's really refined it really nicely alongside MVP and some of those other high-level Terrans that just do a fantastic job with utilizing mech. Now, some of the things to remember about mech is that you do have to keep an eye on what your opponent is doing. You don't want to let them expand all over the map scot-free and just have just a massive amount of map presence. Really, wow, just before we keep ranting about that, really interesting to see the eBay here. This gives Goody a couple of things. It obviously puts the eBay in the way of mining here. That's of course the main reason that he's actually put this down here. It's just blocks off the mining just a tiny bit here, and this will allow Goody to keep an eye on what's happening here at the natural expansion. Will allow him to see how many drones come down here and keep an eye on those sorts of things, which aren't a massive factor in terms of the game, but it is of course good just to put something in your opponent's mind. So we'll see how that pans out. But anyway, back to mech. You want to be really careful when you are playing mech, of course. If you extend too far, you will get absolutely slaughtered. If you don't put at least a tiny bit of harassment on during sort of the early and the mid game, you can fall into a bit of a hole there, of course, especially when you're playing against a Zerg. When a Zerg sees a Terran playing a mech style, you really want to just take the whole map as fast as you can, send drones around, just send them around and just take hatcheries. Even if you can't actually sort of get the drones mining straight away, just take hatcheries, get those positions up and running. Of course, you want to get a lot of gas so you can grab Broodlords and all those sorts of those late game units, which really help you power through a mech. Because of course, one of the main components of dealing with mech is having a nice Broodlord army or having a very mobile army. So we'll see how Haypro is going to deal with that here. But for starters, it looks like he will have to contend with this little push coming through from Goody. There's only 5 Marines and an SCV tanking at the front down, a couple of Marines staying home to make sure the front door is covered. In fact, a couple of them have decided they're going to tag along for this journey, so he's probably going to look out and see if a third base is here. Want to try and check those things in the TVZ to make sure your opponent doesn't get a very quick leg up on you, and we'll find out if HayPro is going to be able to deal with that. He only has a few lings out at the moment here. They don't have speed just yet. It's about to kick in, but he does have a spine crawler at the top of the ramp here, which should be fine to deal with this force. Takes care of that SCV, and the Queen is going to keep an eye on that door as well, just to make sure that these units don't get too far up, but they are going to head down to the southern side. Looks as if HayPro did try and get that third base up, but he had to cancel that. Marines now coming inside. They do find that there was a drone here. Unfortunately, the drone not slipping away quick enough, not to mention there was some visible remnants of the hatchery that was sitting in the normal position where it goes. So Goody able to find that drone, going to pick that off and keep HayPro from expanding to the third for the moment, but HayPro does have +1 to Carapace on the way. Good to see that coming along. He's got the Roach Warren as well, which is going to help him get some units out. As I mentioned before, regarding Goody's harassment at the start of the game, he does some really nice things with getting these Hellions out and then harassing with them. If you could try and get some damage done to your opponent's economy while you're meching up and getting everything prepared, of course, you've got to get some armories up for the Thors, you've got to get a lot of gas going, all that sort of thing. And we can see here that Goody is he's getting a bit supply block here. His namesake from MC living up to expectations here, putting down 3 supply depots. In fact, an extra 2 now. He's got a eBay just coming through as well. Just looking at what he's built here, these factories are the first times he has actually used some gas. Just everything else has been waiting to just saving up that gas. You can see here he's only got around about 200, but he has saved it up. He's only been building Marines, and now looking to get that third base, at least the third command center, prepared for an expansion here. Some Hellions coming out to help defend and perhaps go for a push. There is a little timing around about the 9 to sort of 11 minute mark, I believe it is, where you can push out with those Marines, a tank and a couple of Hellions, and do a little bit of damage to your opponent if they have expanded quite a lot. Now Goody does have a double armory on the way. A little bit reminds me of Flash back in the day when he would get those double armories to get those upgrades on the Goliaths, and the Goliaths would just stomp all over carriers. Unfortunately for Stork, if anyone remembers those particular styles of games back in Brood War. But HayPro has decided it's expand time. He's taken the 4th down at the bottom left-hand side. He's also got the natural to that base as well. He's got a really nice creep spread. That's one thing which HayPro does a fantastic job of, is getting all of this creep spread out along the map. It's very common to see him actually extending out to the halfway line on the map, even before the battles have actually gotten started. So that's a fantastic thing for him, is just making sure that he's got firstly the presence on the map, and of course that vision, which really helps out as well. And speaking of vision, he does have an overseer just floating through Goody's base, just confirming that there is mech on the way. You can see the 3 factories along with the 3 tech labs as well, which is really going to just poke into the mind of HayPro and just say, hey, this guy is definitely going for that hardcore mech. I think he even saw the armories here. Let's just double check. Yes, he did. He saw one of them. So it's at least one of the armories, which signals that the Thors can be a presence on the map. So mutas are not going to be too much of a good choice for HayPro. But what he's doing at the moment is just massing up those roaches. He's got the +1 carapace. We're still waiting on any further upgrades. We've got +1 to missile attacks coming through, and he's going to be perhaps looking to do a little bit of pressure himself. But Goody now pushing out here. I don't think he's going to try and pressure across the map. He is going to use that watchtower to spot what's in the middle here. Sees that there are a lot of roaches. We just heard the Terran adjutant just telling us that some additional supply depots were required. Goody doing not the best job of dealing with this supply situation, but no doubt he's probably got, where are the SCVs? Are there any building? No, he's not. He still does not actually have a single SCV creating a supply depot just yet. But what he is doing is getting out +1 to the attacks for his vehicle weapons, also the armor as well. And that's really going to help out once things get into the thick of it, because he's going to need that. All the tanks to just destroy these roaches, as we can see here. In fact, these Hellions trying to do some damage against these roaches that came down the southern side of this base. And now another attack through the top coming in, and HayPro doing a decent amount of damage damage, chopping down some of those Marines, but he is going to be able to take some of these turrets as well, which is going to be nice, although not probably the most beneficial way to attack into this base. May want to try and save these roaches because they are now cornered, and if HayPro is not careful, he could get slaughtered because these Marines are now, while they don't have stim or combat shield, they still do a lot of damage, and now it looks as if Goody is moving a few tanks into position to make sure he can lay some siege down on these tanks. A couple of them just now pushing through in the pong-pong mode where they're just going to roll all over these roaches here. HayPro doing his best, and he does have burrow, so he does escape for the time being. Those roaches hiding underground, just analyzing what they did wrong, and I tell you what, it's running down here, son. You've got to get out of there and get out of there quick. But the base of Goody now up and running. He's got this third. HayPro, meanwhile, has got his own third up and running. The extract is now coming online at the third base. More roaches popping out. The harvester count looking very nice for both players. Goody sitting on 71. He's doing a decent job of just really beefing up these bases in terms of the economy. Is going to need to put down some more supply depots. Here they are, finally putting down those supply depots. He's been sitting on 121 supply for the last couple of minutes here, but now he's finally realized it. Now, some more roaches coming into this base. I'm not sure if this is the best idea. The angle does not hugely favor those roaches, but he is going to try and push through anyway. These guys in the corner have finally been able to meet up with their brothers, and now they're going to try and put some damage on these SCVs, try and get some of them to retreat and delay the mining here of Goody. But now with their highlights in their hair and their mohawks, these roaches will be able to burrow and move, but the problem is that this turret is going to spot anything trying to move through this side here, which is probably what HayPro is going to try and do. In fact, no, being very clever, not cleverful, that's not actually a word, but being very clever, trying to bust down those rocks, does get away for the moment, and will be able to push down the other side and just escape from there. So HayPro doing an okay job just trying to harass here. I think he just wants to make sure that Goody is not mining the gas efficiently. As we can see, that refinery got taken down. Some SCVs were destroyed as well. Just looking at the worker kill count, HayPro has got 13 worker kills. It's definitely nothing to be ashamed of at all. Goody, meanwhile, only with 1. But now he's going to have some big units on the way. The Thors are coming through. We've got more Hellions, Thors, tanks, all those sorts of units on the way. And for some reason, HayPro is now pushing back into this base again. The turret about to complete, and the tanks will be able to get some vision on these roaches that are burrowed here. A scan going down, and some of those guys getting absolutely slaughtered. These Marines have no upgrades, but the tanks certainly do. They've got 1-1 at the moment. They're probably going to get 2-2 in just a second. In fact, here it comes. And now Goody, sensing danger, knows that there is something coming along here. Perhaps he knows that there are going to be some attacks into the southern portion of the map here. These roaches and lings now streaming down. There are a lot of overlords here. They've got move speed and the ventral sacks as well, so they're going to be able to lift up some of the units and perhaps try and drop in. I do love what HayPro is trying to do here. He's trying to get these, he's trying to use the immobility of mech to try and push around the map and perhaps get inside the main base of Goody, but he's not going to get too far. I think that scan actually saw what was coming. Indeed it does. These overlords now moving through. They've got roaches and lings inside. They're going to have to get through this turret. 1 turret could save the day. 2 turrets is definitely going to help out, but it looks as if the units are now dropping inside. Thors, tanks, and a Raven even are inside the main base of Goody. He is going to be able to get some of these units down. HayPro doing a decent job sweeping through some of the tanks, and now the Thors are going to be the big problem here for HayPro. He's not going to be able to get too far with those big guys around, and now the roaches trying to retreat, getting down some of these tech labs. That'll help delay the push of Goody for quite some time, given that it'll need to rebuild those tech labs and trying to get down some of these auto turrets. That'd be nice to get, and Goody finally getting them down, and he will be able to clean up this attack eventually. And the roaches doing a little bit of damage. I'm not sure if it was worth their weight, but they have certainly done a good job of delaying things, and that's what HayPro needs to do for the moment here, is really just make sure he's delaying as best as he can. Does not want Goody to spread out further along the map. Of course, if he can take a 4th base or even a 5th, if that got that far, that's going to be when you're in trouble. But you don't want the Terran to get that army up too quickly. What you want to make sure you're doing is get your economy established, and HayPro is doing that very nicely here. We can see that he's even got this, he's got this 5th and 6th base over over here. I'm a little bit surprised he's not picking up the gas, but he certainly does have a lot of minerals and everything in the bank here, and he's looks as if he is going to go for another drop. We've got these overlords filling up again. These guys are up to the brim, or almost up to the brim there with units. Baneling's morphing in. We've got a total of 22. Baneling's coming through now as well. He's going to try and perhaps get some damage done. Vikings now just having a little poke around the map, and speaking of poking, we've got some Hellions just coming through to the third base of HayPro. HayPro not aware this is coming through, and 3 Hellions are going to get inside the fourth base, going to start trying to roast up some of these drones, going to take care of the queens as well. Drones getting absolutely obliterated over this side, but meanwhile inside the natural base of Goody has got to deal with some of these roaches here. They have got their +2 to carapace, so they're going to take a little bit less damage from these units, but the problem is that they just do not deal enough damage. They're going to take care of some of these buildings here. Perhaps if he can kill off the supply depots, that'll put Goody into supply cap, and he'll be very frustrated about that, I tell you what. But gets rid of some of those supply depots, reduces the max of Goody down to 180, which is quite hilarious. But the overlords are not done yet. They're going to get inside the main now as well. These guys have some lings inside. The lings with, of course, no further upgrades apart from the +2 to carapace. So they're going to not do as much damage as the roaches would. But have a look at that. The auto turret's still inside the base here from Goody from that early attack, because they survived for about 18 years. That is actually how long they survive for. They go to school. They do everything. But Goody now securing his main base here. We saw the lings get cleaned up. The fourth base now going down. A couple of roaches burrowed. Should have seen that was being planted there by Goody. And now some mules dropping down, going to help out with the mineral mining. So HayPro doing a good job trying to get some nice harassment going here, but still waiting for his main tech to really get online. He does have the infestation pit. We've got the hive here. Where is the Ultralisk, or perhaps the Greatest Spire? I have not even seen a Spire at all. Is there a Spire at all? Am I completely missing something? Nope, no Spire at all. A little bit surprising there from HayPro, so he's not really worried about that just yet. He is going to need to get worried in a second. We've got a huge amount of Thors. We've got 8 Thors. We have a bunch of tanks, 9 tanks, and a heap of Hellions at the front here, going to soak up some of the damage. Banelings on the ground, Lings on the ground, Roaches, and then Banelings, in fact, Roaches and Banelings inside. Nope, just Roaches inside these Overlords. They're going to drop on top of this mech army here, going to try and make some of the splash damage, get on top of those tanks from their brethren, but the tanks still surviving for the moment. A couple of SCVs have actually done a really nice job here, and Goody mostly surviving that attack. It was there is still a lot of damage to be done on these Thors and the tanks as well, and now Goody is going to try and push in here and get some damage done to the economy of HayPro, and now it looks as if these Thors are going to really just start beefing up, and I love what Goody is doing right now. He's just queuing up Hellions. He's got to try and get some Hellions out. As we can see, the quickest reaction from HayPro is to get out a whole bunch of Lings, and the Lings have just been decimated despite the lack of Hellions just being absolutely annihilated there. But HayPro bringing in some Banelings, really helping out there. Not the greatest way to trade, putting them down on the Thors, but he has reduced this attack force quite a lot. We've just got a lot of Vikings and a couple of 2 tanks, 2 Thors, and a couple of Hellions as well. But now extra Hellions pouring inside for Goody, so he is going to be able to secure against those Lings that are coming out. Goody trying to get this 5th base up, but he's not actually got he doesn't even have a 4th up, because the Roaches came along and said nope to that one. So that's going to be a bit of a problem here. But 11 Ultralisks on the way for HayPro. A little bit interesting that he still doesn't have the upgrades for +2 melee on the way, but he's got that coming. That's going to help out quite a lot. And here come those Ultralisks saying hello, boys, and taking care of the tanks, the Hellions, the Thors, and that is going to be it. That is going to be it, in fact, for that mech army of Goody. He's going to have to retreat for the time being. Meanwhile, just really resupplying back up on those Hellions. That's not going to work anything against the massive amount of Ultralisks on the map here. Just have a look at how many are just rolling through. We've still got that big count of 11 Ultralisks. They're probably going to head down to this southern base here, put down some damage on this. Look at all these mules. If he can take out all these mules, that would be absolutely fantastic here. And it looks as if he is going to lumber in here. They just look like big hippopotamus. They're just going to roll in here, lay down some hugs on that orbital command, and then perhaps grab some of those mules as well. That would be fantastic for HayPro. In fact, doesn't get too many, but the mules will retreat, and in fact, they're not going on to mining, which is very interesting here for Goody. Didn't want to put these on that 3rd base here. It probably would mine out very quickly, but his own 4th base is now up here, and he's got this one running, so we'll see how HayPro is going to deal with this, because this is where things get a little bit interesting against the Mech Terran. And where is that Spire? he still doesn't have the Spire, unless I've completely missed it somewhere. I don't know. Nope, still can't see it. I don't know where it is, but he's got to get it very soon, I would say. Gonna need the Broodlords. Here it is. The Spire is finally on the way. Where is it? There it is. That little building just there, but he's going to get that up and running and then hopefully quickly switch that into the Greater Spire so we can get some Broodlords out. The Ultralisk and Lings now pushing through the side here. They're going to deny this 4th base just for the moment here, trying to clean up some of those workers as well. But the big mech army of Goody is now pushing through. This army has 3 on that damage from the tanks, does 65 to armored units. And then they are reducing a lot of damage as well with that 4 on the vehicle plating as well. And now, wow, interesting situation here for HayPro. He's got a huge bunch of Ultralisks inside. We got, how many is that? 7 Ultralisks here, a few Lings as well. And they are actually cornered. There is no way for them to get out along the ground. And we'll see how HayPro is going to deal with this. It looks as if he is going to send over a little group of Overlords to try and take care of these units and pick them up. You don't want to just sacrifice this to the big mech army that is sitting down at the bottom of the ramp. That would just be absolutely silly. And it looks as if okay, wow, interesting situation. Goody covering the side with these Vikings, not allowing the Overlords to get in range. And now it looks as if some Infestors are going to come up here. He's got a little bit of vision, and he's going to put down a Fungal Growth, some Infested Terrans, and should be able to clean up those Vikings. No trouble at all. Going to get rid of those very quickly, those Infested Terrans doing a massive amount of damage. And now HayPro will be able to retreat with these Overlords here. Very happy to see this aerial transport coming through. You would not want to try and walk through this. In fact, hello. The mech has absolutely caught HayPro out of position here. A lot of these Overlords going down. He's going to have to get them back inside if he wants to keep them alive. But no, he only retreats with 2 of those available. But the push back inside the 3rd base here, very clever from HayPro, utilizing the fact that his opponent was out of position to defend his 4th base and has cleaned up a lot of the workers that were inside there. So HayPro doing a great job of just really maneuvering around the map very quickly here and realizing when his opponent was out of position. Unfortunately, this Overlord, this Ultralisk will go down, and that is going to be the end of that particular chapter of this game, because now Goody is going to be able to secure this very quickly here. He's now got 3 macro orbital commands here available to put down some extra mules there. He's got a Ghost Academy completed here, researching the Mobius reactor. And hello, we've got a Nidus Worm inside the main base of Goody. He's just gotten a couple of units out, not getting too much done. The Hellions frying away that worm. You don't want to get that anywhere inside your base. You get goo all over the base, and no matter, not even Captain Planet could clean that much goo up, because that just gets everywhere, in your shoes, in your hair, and it's just crazy. But looks as if a secondary Nidus Worm attack coming at the top base here. Again, utilizing the power of the more mobile Zerg forces here, given that Goody only has, well, I say only, but you look at it, and it's still very powerful, of course. He's just got this massive force of Thors, Hellions, and tanks, but he's very slow. That's the one big thing that HayPro has on his side. He can utilize these Nidus networks here to try and maneuver his units around the map much quicker than the tanks and the Thors can get around. And now another worm popping out inside the main base here. HayPro needing to retreat these units. Probably should put them back up the top again. And here he goes. They're back up the top. And they're just going to probably pop out right here and say hello to that 4th base yet again. In fact, Goody not even putting down that orbital command up there, because he's a little bit worried about that, I would think. Both the armories now going down. HayPro has secured a very nice little win there by taking down the 2 armories. That's going to slow down any Thor production, but there are still quite a lot of Thors out on the map. We've got, I think we've got a huge total there of 8. Yeah, we do. We've got 8 Thors on the map. Again, they are very, very slow, so they're not going to be able to get around as fast as Goody would like, but actually catching out some of these Ultralisks here. A couple are getting away with a little bit of health left over. The Hellions trying to chase after. They're not going to get too much damage done, but this 4th base now clean. This is where all the action is happening. In fact, this is where 8,000 mules have gone down, so that's a little bit interesting there for Goody, but he's now having to deal again. HayPro, this is just fantastic stuff. Not enough people do this. We do not see multiple Nidus Worm placings going down here in StarCraft 2. I really wish more players would use this, but meanwhile, just back at the main base here, just HayPro, just macroing up a little bit. We've got a few Broodlords here. Had a little discussion on one of the previous games. I think it was in the game of Arya versus Bear, where we were trying to figure out what a big group of Broodlords was called, the collective noun for Broodlords. And I think this pretty much sums it up. This is the biggest it's going to get. We actually have a total of 18 Broodlords on the map. That's actually, no, that's not the biggest I've seen. The biggest was 21, but this is certainly a lot to contend with. And look at these guys just laying down all sorts of damage all over the base here. A lot of Thors are now going to come through, though. These Broodlords are very clumped up, and we've got Ghosts in the mix. The Ghost putting down some snipes. Fantastic stuff here from Goody. HayPro going to need to retreat, getting away. He's going to try and get away, trying to put some damage down as well. We'll see if he's actually going to put down some any further Ultralisk. I would be a little bit surprised if he did switch back to that. But these Thors are doing so much damage, just tearing apart all of these Broodlords here. The Broodlords now numbering just in the 5, and they're going to get absolutely wrecked by these Thors. The Thors with that 3 damage doing 39 to, in fact, 18 per hit to air units. So they're doing quite a lot. But now another worm has come up inside the natural expansion of Goody. One lonely Ling popping out here. It's not going to get too much damage done, considering there are some tanks still protecting this base. And now it looks as if Goody is perhaps in a position to win here. He's actually going to push forward with these tanks. The tanks not even hitting up siege mode. But now some Broodlords still morphing in here. 6 Broodlords could be able to help save the day. If they can get up, they should be able to take some, put some damage on those tanks. I'm not sure if they're going to get anything done against these Thors, though. The Thor's just ridiculously powerful now with all of those upgrades and sitting in a big group like that. Not to mention the Ghosts on the ground as well. They've got a lot of energy stored up, so they should be able to put down some snipes as well. If they can get the snipes going on these Broodlords, I would say that could be it. HayPro with the only unit he can resupply effectively now with is those a lot of Lings, and a lot of Lings is not going to do enough, but a couple of Ultralisks popping out, not getting enough damage done. The Broodlord's now going down, and I think that is going to be it, and that is going to be a fantastic game from both of these guys. Goody doing a great job of utilizing the map structure there, pushing around with his big Thor and tank combination, then switching into this Ghost mech later in the game, and that was just really nice stuff. But HayPro not giving up yet. He's still trying to keep this economy going here at this top base, and we'll see how he's going to try and resupply here, but he's not going to. That is all done there, right? And he is all finished up because there is just not enough to keep him going, sitting on a worker supply of 60. Despite that, he was just not mining enough here. We had a couple of drones down here at the 4th base, not getting too much done because there was no minerals left, no 5th, no 6th, just had this base up at the top, which was the only thing mining, and unfortunately for HayPro, that was just not enough to contend with this very well-controlled mech game from Goody. So hopefully you guys all enjoyed that game. It was a lot of fun. We will have a look at some more action from HayPro from the Team Liquid replay pack in a very short time. If you have any replays you would like to see cast, make sure you let me know. Send them through to duckvillelol@gmail.com and follow me on Twitter and say hello, and I'll catch you guys next time. Cheers.